Next to me is one of the coolest trucks ever made, the Dodge Ram SRT-10. With a 6-speed manual transmission and the V10 engine from a Viper, it almost makes modern-day TRXs and Ford Raptor Rs seem tame in comparison. Under the massive hood of the SRT-10 is an 8.3-liter naturally aspirated V10 that makes 500 horsepower and 525 pound-feet of torque. With a 0 to 60 time of 5.2 seconds, this makes more power and is quicker than a 2023 Ford Raptor. Pretty ridiculous. Now, the engine is mated to a Tremec T56 transmission, same one in the Dodge Viper, so the level of driver involvement in this car is actually borderline hilarious. And I love the fact that it isn't a Viper engine that they've detuned to put in the truck. No, it makes the exact same amount of horsepower as an 04 Viper does. Built from 2004 to 2006, they only made 10,000 of these, so they're pretty rare. Despite its rarity and its awesome powertrain, somehow you can get one of these for under $30,000, which has me thinking, imagine buying one of these for about 26 grand, sending it to Calvo, twin turboing it, putting a sequential transmission in it, and seeing what this thing is like with 2,000 wheel horsepower. Looks-wise, the SRT-10 is manly, a true hoss to say the least. The front end is incredibly imposing, and we've got a massive hood scoop. Now, coming around to the side, we've got enormous 15-inch brakes in the front, 14 inches in the rear, massive 22-inch wheels. These are actually the exact same design as the 04 Viper's wheels, just bigger. And they're mated to enormous tires, 305 section front and rear. We've also got Bilstein suspension with stiffer springs. It's lowered by about 1 inch in the front and 2.5 inches in the rear. And at 5,000 pounds, it's actually about 1,000 pounds lighter than a current gen Raptor R. The back of this truck is actually quite funny to me. Now, it's been removed, which is a cool feature, but in general, it's got a large rear wing, yes, a wing on a truck, that produces 165 pounds of actual downforce. Why you need that on a truck, I have no idea, but it's borderline hilarious. We've also got a dual-tipped exhaust and that beautiful SRT badge on the back. I can't wait for you guys to hear what this thing sounds like, because it's pretty absurd. The interior of the SRT-10 is not the best. There's a lot of plastic everywhere, and it looks relatively cheap in here. That being said, it does have these nice kind of two-toned leather and Alcantara buckets that kind of remind me of the seats in the new Hellcats. It's also a 3-seater, which is really interesting given the fact it's got a manual transmission, because as you shift in a second, you're gonna get really friendly with your neighbor, or, I mean, hopefully you know them well. If it's a stranger, it's really gonna get weird. More likely than not, you're gonna pull this down and use it as an armrest. It even has some extra storage space in here as well. I love the fact that it is a 6-speed manual transmission. The throws are a bit longer than you get in a Viper, but it does feel a little bit more notchy and tight of a gearbox than you'd expect in a truck. The steering wheel, it's all right. You do have cruise control buttons on the wheel itself, which is interesting, but I do love the fact that you've got an engine start button here like it's a Viper. All right, let's take this thing out on the road, see what it's like to drive. This thing actually rips! Wow! It sounds full on like a Viper. That throaty, deep V10 in a truck. That is absolutely ridiculous. And I was flat out in first gear and it didn't break traction whatsoever. Those 305s, it's just ridiculous all the way around. What a concept, right? Putting a Viper powertrain into a truck. And the interesting thing is, it resurfaced again in the last couple of years. It seemed like it was insane that Dodge came out with the Ram TRX and Ford came out with the Raptor R, but a lot of people forgot it happened in the past with this absolutely insane, essentially super truck. And once again, I just love the fact that they didn't detune it. They didn't make it a 400 horsepower V10 or a 375 horsepower V10. It's got 500 horsepower, which is more than a 3rd gen Raptor, save the R. And honestly, at 26 to 30 grand, this is one hell of a bargain. You're getting the same manual as the Viper, you're getting the same engine as the Viper, you got the same modification potential as the Viper, and it looks pretty cool. This thing's only got 4,000 miles on it, so it is absolutely mint. I want to give a huge shout out to the Audrain Museum and Audrain Collection for making this video possible. Make sure to check them out on YouTube as well as Instagram. I just went to the Audrain Concours this weekend. It was an absolute blast. Some amazing cars showed up. They had a 30 under 30 class for 30-year-olds and younger who spent less than $30,000 on their build. So it wasn't just, although it was very cool to see, the priceless multi-million-dollar Delahayes and 250 MMs. It was also some affordable cars, which is pretty cool. And honestly, this could be a really cool 30 under 30 build. I really like it. Yes, the interior is pretty lackluster, but if you get over that and know it's all about the performance and just a rowdy driving experience, it's not the loudest truck in the world. Like, it could be a little bit louder in the cabin, I'm not gonna lie. But when you get fully on the gas, it does make a pretty nice noise. The gearing, though, is ridiculous in this. I'm pretty sure first gear probably goes to the better part of 60 miles an hour. I mean, I'm going 40 miles an hour in second gear at 3,000 RPM. And it's got plenty of torque, even down low at 3,000 RPMs. Obviously, 525 pound-feet is a heck of a lot. What a vehicle. It's not the most comfortable, but it's also not super uncomfortable either. The suspension rides somewhere in between harsh and comfortable to borderline, I don't know, normal feeling suspension. It does ride a little bit harsher than you'd suspect a truck would, but obviously we've got those tighter Bilstein's shocks. It's lower to the ground. It's going to perform better on the track. I haven't really seen any track times. I don't even know if people have really tracked this car. That would be very interesting to do. Make a track build of an SRT-10. Given the fact it weighs 5,000 pounds, it's not going to be the best thing on the track in the world, but it would be possible, and it would be pretty darn funny. Yeah, it goes like 50 miles an hour in first gear. That's insane. And a little bit of tire chirp in between the gear shifts. Feels really confidence-inspiring at high speeds, too. It's very stable. You do get a decent amount of wind noise, but I like it. I really do like this thing. They also made a mega cab version with extra seats, but I think this is the coolest version because it's the lightest, most entry-level stripper truck with the biggest engine possible in it, and that is just such an awesome concept. Oh man, this thing is amazing. Sounds really good. This with an exhaust would be absolutely insane. That needs to happen. And like I was saying earlier, how funny and how awesome would it be to slap some twin turbos on this thing and run the sequential gearbox that they do in the Calvo Vipers? This thing would absolutely haul. I mean, it'd be horrifying. And obviously the aero is horrendous, so it would be really sketchy at best. But for, you know, a 60 roll to about 100, and then you'd want to shut it down really quick, it'd probably be pretty ridiculous. All right, let's do one last pull, and then we're gonna end this video. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.